Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, text number 18. The second canto is entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, and this chapter is entitled The First Step in God Realization. Reading the sloka. Niyached Vishayebhyokshan Manasa Buddhi Sarathi Mana Karmabhir Akshiptam Shubhatve Dharaye Dhiya. Once again. Niyached Vishayebhyokshan Manasa Buddhi Sarathi Mana Karmabhir Akshiptam Shubharte Dharaye Dhiya. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, Avacharya Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Okay, we just read the synonyms. Niyached, withdraw, Vishayebhya, from sense engagements, Akshan, the senses, Manasa, by dint of the mind, Buddhi, intelligence, Sarathi, driver, Mana, the mind, Karmabhi, by the fruit of work, Akshiptam, being exhorting, Shubharthe, for the sake of the Lord, Dharayet, hold up, Dhiya, in full consciousness. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, Avacharya Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Gradually, translation, gradually as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, we draw it from sense activities, and by intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, too absorbed in material activities, can be engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. Purport. The first process of spiritualizing the mind by mechanical chanting of the pranava, Omkara, and by control of the breathing system is technically called the mystic or yogic process of pranayama, or fully controlling the breathing air. The ultimate state of this pranayama system is to be fixed in trance, technically called samadhi. But experience has been proven that even the samadhi state also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, became a victim of his senses and cohabitated with men. History has already recorded this. The mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious stages and thus disrupts one from 100% engagement in self-realization. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely to fix one's mind in the service of the personality of God, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. Also recommends this direct process in the Bhagavad Gita 6:47. Thus, the mind being spiritually cleansed, one should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by the different devotional activities of hearing, chanting, etc. If performed under proper guidance, that is the highest path of progress, even for the disturbed mind. So here, this Srila Prabhupada begins the translation gradually. So it Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnanam Janasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mahyam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Tapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padana Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhang Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyacha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pachakcha Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We read the translation once again. Translation. Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, we derive from the sense activities, and by intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, to absorb in material activities, can be engaged in the service of the personality of God and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. Hare Krishna, I seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas assembled so that I can speak something relevant to this subject matter for my purification and the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, translation, Prabhupada starts with gradually. So the systematic progression of the mind control is here delineated as we have these methodologies as practiced by the transcendentalists. We have the different processes like we have these steps progression like with all these in the 8 limbs of yoga practice, we have yama, niyama, asana, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. These are the 8 limbs of the progression of this yoga practice. These steps of the yoga practice in this. Here also in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna, in the chapter 3, Karma Yoga, text number 42 and 43, and also in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, also Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, text number 19 and 20, there are some very important and interesting aspects discussed with, which we can discuss also in this context. So I have these Bhagavad Gita's the translation. We'll just read the purport and this and how Krishna brings these points here in this. So I'm just reading the translation. Thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, Almighty Armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this unstable enemy of enemy known as lust. So here in this, like we have this 42 also the same thing, like the working senses are superior to the dull matter, mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. This 42 and chapter is the chapter third chapter of Bhagavad Gita 42 and 43 is all specifically speaks about the mind, uncontrollable mind how we can, and similarly we have these in 19 and 20 of the chapter 5, this action in Krishna consciousness. So I will read the translation of the both these verses. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. And the translation for the text 20 is also a person who is neither rejoiced upon achieving something pleasant or laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God is already situated in transcendence. So these are several the verses quoted in Bhagavad Gita, and also even the some other place like Krishna also says that Arjuna asks, how is that how an intelligent person also bewildered by this and carried away by this, as the boat is carried away by the wind. So that is what Krishna answers all these points in the systematic progression to Arjuna. And here we just see how so we have Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati is also quoting about this mind, how very disturbed mind is uh, so difficult to overcome. But then he says also like Dushtamanatami Kashara Vaishnava Pratishtharakari Nirjanagare Tava Harinama Kevala Kaitava. These are the things like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati reports that the person in a seclusion chanting the holy name and thinking that he is very elevated personality and so on and so forth, just thinking. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati really trashes this kind of attitude of the person who is just thinking solitude in solitude, staying and thinking himself to be very high because he's chanting the holy name, just like that. So that is not. It's like that, the mind is compared, like here also mind is compared to the that youthful monkey. It is intoxicated, and also over and above that, it trampled the fire coal. Like we walk through the fire coal unknowingly. Then you understand one, it is intoxicated with kind of in the intoxicated mind, it walked through the fire, and then you can imagine how unrest that monkey will be. So this is what is compared to the mind to be like that. We can't imagine it becomes restless, does all sorts of things beyond our imagination. That is why it is said that the mind should be treated in the morning very systematic methodology with that. That is said we should worship the mind with a broomstick and beat 100 times with the shoes so that it can be controlled. It is a regular process, like we chant Hare Krishna mantra regularly every day, minimum 16 rounds in the morning. And similarly, this process has to be done for the mind control every day. So then we can just keep the mind under control. And also it is like this said, the mind your mind. There's one kind of thing. So that is what, when we mind our mind, that is why, because mind, the quality of a mind or the nature of a mind is it imagines problems. It's difficult. So if something comes, so, oh, how can I do it? How can I do this, adopt this process? It's very difficult and so on and so forth. It offers so many kind of problems it offers, even for a simple methodology that we have to adhere to for our devotional practices. It offers so many kind of difficult problems, which are not really the problems. Also, it imagines pleasure, where there is not any pleasure. It offers so many false promises and pleasures to our mind. And next one, also it is neglects the opportunity. If there is some nice opportunity, yes, these devotional practices are very nice. We should practice, we should take up to the devotional practice, devotional practices and practice it to attain or achieve the benefit of that. But then what happens? It neglects this kind of thing. Whenever there is an opportunity to practice, that deviates our mind, that the mind deviates, offering to so many other false promises. Hey, look, here it is so emotional. You wanted to just take up this. You have so many kind of restrictions, so many kind of lifestyle. You have to change your lifestyle. This is difficult. That is so difficult. How can you practice this? All sorts of unwanted problems it offers for not to take up the Krishna consciousness process, and denies reality. It also denies the reality, like in the same context, neglecting opportunity denies the reality by offering so many other reasons not to accept the reality. And the reality is there, yes, chanting of the 16 rounds, we have seen the devotees having totally transformed their lives and practiced so much and advanced in so much of spiritual, in the spiritual realm. Just the mind totally denies those things. So these are the kind of problems, like neglecting and offering so many unwanted allurements, so that we get deviated from this kind of thing. So then further, what is exactly the okay, we'll just ponder on these things, like Srila Prabhupada quoted here, Vishwamitra Muni. Yes, we know Vishwamitra, the sage Vishwamitra is a very great sage, but then when he was in a meditation of all this, because we now Kali Yuga, the process, Hare Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Kevalam, Kalau, Nasteva, 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 Gatavinda. There are other 8 processes of yoga processes that also practitioners, they practice even when Vishwamitra, having gone through all these processes, and even in the final phase of Samadhi, he was disturbed just by the entry of Menakas. Just the twinkling of the ankle bells. He just was disturbed so much. Even in the state of Samadhi, he got out of that and entangled with Menaka's affairs. And then we know of how further it is. So this is, the history has already recorded this, the mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities. Though when we are engaged in, when we are in that stage of Samadhi, even though after having passed all the previous stages and final stage, Samadhi has been attained, but even in that stage, there is no guarantee that we will be able to control our mind. Here is an example. Sri Prabhupada quoted is the Vishwamitra Muni, such a great sage. So what to speak of insignificant souls like us, especially myself. So I don't think these are practically possible for us. So here the Acharyas has given us the process, simple process of chanting the holy name. No other processes are recommended for this age of Kali. That's how even Sotadeva Goswami in the 11th canto says, Kaler Doshamide Rajan Hastiyat Mahanaguna Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramrajet. So that is only the way. With all Kali Yuga is a full of faults, ocean of faults. With all that, there is one wonderful quality, that is, by just chanting the holy name of Krishna, we can get out of this miserable, cross the ocean of missions without any obstacles. This is recommended process. All have in just we have seen the progress of this the path in this devotional progress that we have seen that we are experiencing little by little. So this is what the practice is important for us to adhere to in the age of Kali, because there is no other process which can give us the desired result. And for this to have a sound mind, what are those kind of things that we should go through or adhere to? What are the system that what is the system that we should follow? Those are all we just discussed in that. Association, the association of the devotees. We should like the Prabhupada was quoting that example, like the chambers of commerce, they have those kind of things, the business personality, they have the chambers, the association of this commerce and people all in their business. They have these um, commerce, the chambers of the commerce, they all get together and discuss various subject matters that are relating to the business, and so that the like-minded people, they just join together and discuss those things. They can get certain ideas and which can be implemented, imparted to other people also. Similarly, we devotees having the association of the we have the wonderful association of the devotees in which we can definitely exchange our ideas so that what other persons are doing to do the proper sadhana, what are the methodology like that. So we can just learn from others and also put it into practice in our own lives. And also exercising, we need the mind to control, have the control on the mind. Also, we need some sort of physical exercise that is really recommended, and using the gadgets as minimum as possible, as required, that we don't totally or together we can. But that is again using everything in Krishna consciousness to the extent possible, not just totally be servant of those things, but we should rather have the control over them as limited as possible. The avoiding the footsteps, those are in the mode of ignorance and passion. Then also locking our system, that is our system by the sunset, means not to eat anything, not to accept anything after the sunset, because we know this, it is said that the birds do not take anything or eat anything after the sunset. That's really they're very disciplined kind of thing. We human beings only deviate or all mess up everything, but then the other species, they do not. Like, for example, tiger do not eat the vegetables or grass or something, and similarly, the birds take only whatever that they need. There's some few grains or whatever it is, they have it. They don't. But we simply just deviate from all sorts of our whatever is our quota, our destined game. We don't do that, but we just try to encroach into other animals, other species, and try to just um, try to satisfy our senses with indulging into so many other unwanted activities. So that is what another thing. Then also further we have and avoiding to indulge into kind of unwanted activities. By disciplining our mind, we can just have the control on the mind and also process it into very healthy habits of thinking and reading the subject matters of the devotional subject matters, by which we will always be absorbed into the uh, pious activities and engaging with the worship of the deities or associating with the devotees and so on. These are all certain things recommended here. And we have, I think now the time is up. We will open up for any discussions, questions, and comments. Yes. Yes, please. Now, anybody has any comment? We just would like to invite the comments. Yes, there is two more things I just would like to. This word like entangled, or we have to that our mind entangles, but we need to untangle the word only U and E. That mind just now we have entanglement and untanglement. Only the difference in the alphabet E and U. When we work systematically, it does help. We can at one point of time, as Srila Prabhupada explains here, and Lord Krishna advises Arjuna in all these verses quoted. So we can just do that just by adjusting or just changing that word entangle with untangle. With word E, the alphabet E, remove and put the alphabet U, then untangle the mind. So this is what I have to say. Just let's see if any comments on this, please.
I think Radha Kunji Bihari Prabhu was saying something, Prabhu.
Yeah. Is he, am I not able to?
No. You.
Is he there on the screen?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. So nice to hear from you, Prabhuji, after a long time. Thank you for the wonderful, discourse. I had, something came to my mind when you were talking about Vishwamitra, how he could not control his mind and, he gave up his austerities because he heard Urvashi's anklets. In comparison, I was just thinking,
Yes.
I was thinking about how Arjuna, goes to the heavenly planets, and Urvashi comes to Arjuna with a request, and then Arjuna actually closes his eyes and folds his hands in front of her, and he equates her to the mothers, including Kunti Devi and so many other elevated mothers, and says, you are the, mother of our dynasty. I cannot, I don't see you like this, and I cannot indulge in it. So I was just contrasting the two. So
yes, very nice you have brought this point. Yes, Arjuna is a very self-controlled. That's how he could win Pashupatastra by battling with Lord Shiva when he was doing that. And also like that is how Krishna's mercy and Krishna's companionship that gives a constant companion in all the planet. I mean, whenever there is a, like Krishna says that yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhisthanam dharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham paritranaya sadhanam. Whenever there is a requirement, then so these Pandavas are constant companions, and Arjuna is one of the companions of Lord Krishna in all wherever he has to carry on his pastimes, he is accompanying. Also, we can see the same thing, like because he is self-controlled, even when he was in Virata, in the assembly of Virata, he was just doing that, and that calls what Urvasi gave when we just quoted this one. Because he was not obliged to her, then you become a eunuch, and then because of this Indras or whatever involvement, whatever it is, then it is just said, okay, whenever you just have to have that, and then you can on your adjustment that you can adjust that. So that was really useful for Arjun to have that in Virat assembly to just become that eunuch and then teach our dance, the music to Uttara. And that time Virat was just happy, oh, such a nice this thing to Arjun. He was wanting to marry her to Arjun, but then he says, no, I can't because I'm a teacher and she's my daughter. How can I just see like the spiritual master? We all the children of spiritual master, however, whatever the age is, that is all different aspect, that bodily concept. But then that is how he says, no, she's my daughter. How can I marry? But I have my son equal to her, so competent match that will be. So I will marry her to my son Abhimanyu. That's how it is. So these are all the person when he is really guided by the principles of spirituality and having that Vishnu Rata, that qualities of that person, having wonderful attitude. So they do never, even despite of this such, he doesn't have to be just like Vishwamitra Muni. But we have several occasions how Vishwamitra Muni was totally baffled in so many occasions. But this is the nature of person who is guided by the principles of Krishna consciousness. He will never be deviated under any circumstances. This is, thank you for having brought this wonderful point. Anything else? Anybody has anything else to comment or question or anything?
Krishna Prabhu, that point, yeah, you talked about worshipping the mind.
Excuse me?
So when you said,
Uh-huh.
no, I was just thinking when you said worship the mind in the morning, I was just thinking
Oh, yeah.
that what
Worship the
will you
mind with
say?
the broom. Yeah, worship
Yeah.
the mind. That is with the broomstick. That is what it is. No, but this is not Saraswati. This is what the two treatments that to be needed. So to get it under control every day, this is a daily process. Cleans up with the broomstick. We
Yes.
100 times with that thing. The broomstick is the thing that we use it for cleaning our house or anything, like no any place, like no a dirty place. We clean to clean up the dirty place. We use the broomstick. And similarly to punish, to beat the beatings, 100 beatings every day, the mind, so that it will be just like that, it will be like, controlled the snake which is removed its fangs, so that will be under control. So these are the two methodologies. Worship, the process of worship of the mind is this. That is, in fact, another way down to say that you have to punish it like this. You need that bind this kind of treatment.
So in practical way, what is that? Maybe if you can just little bit elaborate, Prabhu, on that.
That's very good. Practical way is to just know the introspect at the day, end of the day. What did we do? Nasty, dirty things, and what all that we just know, and completely just know in introspect that. Then when we just go, oh, this is such a wrong thing I just spoke, that a bad thing I did, I should not. So that is how when we just get those things into our mind. Okay, this is what I did, which is not an analysis. We have to take the evening when we just come to the day end. Then before you just say, okay, all these kind of things when you just analyze, then we understand what should not have been spoken, what shouldn't have been done. So that is how we can just work on those things like that, but not to let it become a usual practice. Okay, I think this is bad, I shouldn't have done, but I did it. I carry on doing it. That's not, but that is not. So we have to have this, because then that is what it is said. One, a devotee, Srila Prabhupada, he said, another person is not following the principles, not able to say, no, not following is not just good. You should follow. When you have taken, when you have promised in front of the deities, promised in front of the spiritual masters, promised in front of the Vaishnavas, how can you do that? No, that's wrong. So this is what it is. We have to have certain principles. We're guided by the spiritual principles, spiritual practices. When we are doing that, we have to have this. Otherwise, there's no point in analyzing those things and again carry on doing the same thing. Like, no, it's not. We have to have that methodology of, no, this is what I did accidentally. That's why accidental fall down is okay, but not habitual fall down. Habitual fall down is the habitual offender. So it's not. There is no excuse for that, no escape for that. We have to suffer the consequences no matter what, no matter who he is.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. If there is nothing, we can close on it. It's 5 minutes past.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the earlier reply, but now you are talking about habitual offenders and other things. So I don't know what others. At least I think I have taken multiple births, innumerable. And what it means is I am a habitual, offender. Even though I go to Lord Krishna or whoever else, I'm still probably pretending and not prepared to accept that I'm pretending. So the biggest thing is how do we get out of this habitual, I know in Upadeshamrita, the first text itself, Prabhupada addresses this, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah, Prabhu, first step.
Prabhuji, you said something?
Yeah. What did you say? That last one?
No, I said in Upadeshamrita, the very first text, Prabhupada actually talks about it. So, but then I want to hear from you also.
Yeah, see, these all, for all these do's and don'ts, what we have, if we systematically try to follow them, of course, the one first place, it may be difficult, but when we are just committed for that, there is no excuse. We have to have those things, like atyahara, those all other things, what we can avoid. When we can avoid all those things, as delineated in the principles and our revealed scriptures, absolutely it becomes easy. But that is, of course, again, like that we have to train the mind. That otherwise, it will take away. Even for an intelligent person, that's what Arjun says in Bhagavad Gita. It just drives away even the intelligence of the intelligence of a person, like the wind drives away sways away the boat in the ocean or in the waters in the river. So that's what it is compared to. So that's how. And then enable the captain of the ship or the boat, he can just divert into the path of perfection, even in the midst of the gusty winds and things like that, by his practice. Otherwise, incapable person who doesn't have the sufficient practice, he would not be able to do that. So this is what is the expertise in that. So that's how we should become expert in guiding our mind or having this thing. Of course, it is better. What is that? It is easier said than done. But then it is not the excuse. We have to have this. The regular constant practice of chanting the holy name, associating with the devotees, taking Krishna Prasadam. These are basic steps. When we follow these things, certainly there is not going to be something. Yes, there is. Otherwise, Krishna says also, Abhyasaya Virtana. When he says, Krishna, if you want me to control the wind, who can control the wind? Nobody can control the wind. How can we do that? But Arjun says, I can control the wind or Krishna, but it is difficult to control the mind. That is really very wonderful point that Arjun points out that. But Krishna says, yes, Arjun, what you're saying is right, but it's not difficult. By constant practice, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena, that's what Krishna brings on the point. Is that right, Prabhuji? Are you okay with that?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. It really.
Thank you, thank you. As it is, but we just wanted to first bring it to the discussion, just like that. So
No, Prabhuji. It's actually, like there is this in Sanskrit Subhashitani, there is this verse, I don't remember it completely. It says Arambashuri Kshani Kramena. What it translates is, in the beginning, when you make the sankalpa or the determination, you're going to do it full-fledged. But like the waxing moon, the waning moon, it slowly goes down, down, down until one fine day it just disappears, So it's also the forgetfulness. So, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. I all glories to Guru Maharaj. I just want to say, Radha Kunja Bihari Prabhu nicely extended the discussion. It was very good being here this morning. Thank you.
Where is the Surudev Swamini of Nepal?
Hare Krishna, I am shut up now. Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Nice. Thank you so much.
From you.
All right. Lingaraj Prabhu, I think we can close down for the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for participating. Hare Krishna.
Devi Murti Mataji sent some message in the chat, Prabhu. So nice to hear from you. Thank you for the association.
What did you say?
No, Devi Murti Mataji sent a chat message saying that so nice to hear from you. Thank you for your association.
She's a great soul. She keeps on with some other wonderful comment, encouraging thing for persons like me. Thank you, Mata. Thank you so much.